This issue, this video, is about women in science and math. Can women do whatever a man can do? Can a woman be president? Are they? Is it time for a woman to be president? No, that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about, is a woman able or capable or etc. of these things? And there are people who will tell you a man can do whatever. They always say a woman can do whatever a man can do. They never talk about the opposite. It's not true. It's absolutely not true. A woman cannot do whatever a man can do. And when you compare a man and a woman in general, and pretty much fact, cannot compete with a man in many areas, and vice versa. There's areas where a man cannot compete with a woman. Part of it is the brain structure, and part of it is the body structure. Men tend to be taller. It's not because they have to be. You know, it's because of choice in marriage, in partners is the reason why. If women dated short men, then women would become taller and men would be shorter. That's what would happen. But as it is today, men run faster, they're stronger. Women might have more endurance. Like the women might win a contest to see who could walk the farthest. There are people that do this, and for example, you don't have to walk down the street, but you could go climb a mountain or something like that. And endurance-wise, strength doesn't help you, and height doesn't help you. So there's going to be women that are going to win in that type of measure. And stretching is another one. Women at a young age are really good at stretching. They lose it as they get older. But and there's, of course, if you've seen the Indian men that get inside little cubes, there's people that can do amazing things with their body. And in general, a woman is more flexible than a man is. It might be because they practice it more as a child. I don't know. But that is a fact, that women are more flexible than men. Well, we got another big issue. We've got people saying there should be more women in science and math, and I don't agree with that. And there's been a lot of money wasted trying to get women involved with science and math because they think, well, all the money is in the high-tech jobs, and they want women to make that money, so they want women to go to school. They don't want to do it for themselves, but they want other women to do it. They want young girls to do it. And they spend large sums of money, millions of dollars, and they might get one person to study science at the cost of millions of dollars. You know, these programs largely fail. And there's a couple reasons why, and which we're going to get into, which you're going to be something that you haven't heard before, but it's fact. There's a physical difference between men and women that prevents women from succeeding in math and science, and that is that our brains are actually different. It's a fact. There's something called gray matter and white matter, and men have more gray matter, women have more white matter, and the gray matter is for logic and analytical thought, and the white matter is for relationships, relational skills, organizing things. The person who has more gray matter is going to succeed with philosophy, logic, math, thinking, etc. The person with more white matter, which is women, is going to succeed with more socially oriented things, relationships, organizing things, etc. And that's just a fact. So there's no such thing that a woman is going to be more logical than a man. A man who's dumb has a logical capacity. I'm not sure if this is exactly true, but I'm pretty sure that a stupid man has a logical capacity that is far superior to a woman. Even the most logical women. Well, might be some exceptions, but in general. And the reverse is true with a woman who is emotionally messed up. The emotional part, the part of the brain, the white matter part of the brain, is far superior to a typical man's white matter. So whatever skills, whatever job skills that is good for, the woman is going to excel at and is going to kick the butt in the man. And the same with the logic. The analytical part, the men will always be stronger than women. And there's women who have had success, like Madame Curie or there's a lot of Russian women that are scientists and engineers. It's common in Russian and Ukrainian society. They're still not going to achieve the success that men are able to achieve, and vice versa. It's just biological fact, and it's not something that I invented. You know, it's something that has been proven by biologists. It's something that's been proven by testing. It's a fact. So when you have programs to try, you know, I've known women all of my life living in the United States. Women are not interested in science and math. They're not interested, and women want other women to be interested, but they don't want it for themselves. They say, we want this other girl to study it. Why are you trying to make decisions for somebody else? Let them. You got to decide your self-determination. You got to decide what you wanted to do. Let that kid decide what she wants to do. We shouldn't be spending money, millions of dollars, trying to encourage young girls to be involved with science and math. It's stupid. I studied math class, advanced math, not basic math. I mean, this stuff was tough for me. And the only girls in any of my classes were always Asian girls, and that was it. There were Chinese girls, and I studied computer science, and I had a class with 100 students, and there were 4 girls, 2 were Chinese. And I've worked with girls that did computer programming, but they never had the skills that the men had, and they never had the jobs, and they never got the difficult work. They did the easy work, and they were probably hired because they got a low wage, or because the boss wanted to hire a woman, but they were not given the tough jobs, and they didn't do the tough jobs, and they weren't able to do the tough jobs. And and you know what? There's something called middle management. Middle management. Women dominate middle management. They make more money than men do in middle management jobs, and this is where they dominate. Middle management means they aren't the top boss, but they're the boss somewhere more near the middle or the bottom end of the company. Like maybe they're the boss of a shift supervisor type boss or something like that. I don't know, but there's a lot of middle management jobs. You can do your research on the internet and see examples of them. Women dominate middle management. They get paid more than men. It's what they excel at, etc. So the reason why I brought this up is partly because of the science and math, but there was something else about philosophy that I read recently. So there's this guy. His name is Avallone, Hunter Avallone. So I've been watching his videos lately, and Hunter Avallone, if you like what I say, you're going to like what he says. He's like a younger version of me. He's absolutely, I agree with him 99% of the time, and I see the things that he hasn't learned yet because I went through it when I was younger. I'm a lot older than he is, 20 years older than him. And I can predict what he's going to need to learn to continue, because he's a very popular guy. So someone was talking to him saying, oh, I could do philosophy if I want to. No, you can't. I studied philosophy. It was my major in college, and it is a male-dominated field, and men excel at this type of work because of the brain structure, and you can't get past that. So there are people who are gay. And when you have a person who is gay, there are some exceptions. A gay man is more on the white matter part than on the gray matter. And this is not my research. It's stuff that I've read from other people's research. A gay woman is more on the gray matter than the white matter, I believe, making her more logical. However, lesbians have an exception in that they don't have the same proportion of white matter and gray matter that a woman has or that a man has. They have their own unique proportion that's not common in gay men. And their proportion apparently is half and half. It gives them an analytical advantage over straight women. However, they still cannot compete with a straight man. The logical thinking abilities of a woman are not able to compete. That women are disadvantaged because of the lack of gray matter in the fields of philosophy, math, science, etc. And the list goes on. That doesn't mean that they can't do those jobs, but there's going to be a ceiling. There's going to be a point that they're not going to be able to cross anymore, where the field will be dominated by men, and those are going to be the guys that are going to be paid the most amount of money. They'll do fine in the entry-level positions, I'm sure. There have been a lot of great women mathematicians. For example, there was a woman who was one of the first people to do computer algorithms. And when I was learning computer programming, there was a woman named Abigail who knew things that just amazed me even today. Even today, I'm amazed at the things that she knew, and she would post code algorithms. It's like, that stuff just blows my mind. But then again, I never needed to use those algorithms, so I never developed them on my own. When you develop code, you tend to get a niche. But she was really good, so I'm opposed to these programs, and there has to be some trust that men can make logical decisions that are ethical and moral and good solutions. There has to be some trust in a man's logical abilities, and the same with a woman who makes I don't know the right word, if it's social or relational or emotional, but there has to be some trust there that there's going to be women who are going to make the right decisions in that matter also. The problem is that the media bombards us with the belief that men and women are equal. They're just not. It's not true. I believed it when I was a child. I thought, men and girls and boys are equal. And I didn't believe it because someone taught it to me. My mother taught me the opposite. My mother was a strict feminist. She was very, very feminist, to the point that I hated feminism throughout my childhood. Cannot stand all the stupid nonsense that she always said. But I came to my own conclusion. I remember when I was 10 years old, I disagreed with my teachers. My teacher used the example, this was 4th grade, okay, I'm not going to say his name, but he used the example. He said, I can't see Cindy as flying a jet fighter. And I said, why not? Why can't she do it? And the fact remains is that he's completely wrong, because women are actually better suited for flying jet fighters, because the distance from the heart to the brain is shorter, because women are shorter, and then you can survive greater G-forces, less likely to pass out. It's short people that have a better job, and women are shorter than men. So he was actually wrong about that. And I disagree with him. I said, you shouldn't judge a person by their gender. I was in 4th grade. I remember having that discussion in class, and it wasn't something, like I said, it was probably taught indirectly by my mother, because she was such a hateful person towards men, and I didn't like the way she treated my father. And I was always a very intelligent person. Came to the conclusion on my own that the media bombards us, telling us that men and women are the same, is just not true. What my message for young people, especially young women, do what you're good at and leave it at that. Find out what you're good at and do that. And then once you're good at it, find out what you like to do that you're good at. And that's where you're going to end up. I did computer programming. I was good at it. Maybe I didn't like doing it, but over time, I worked it into something that I like to do that I was also good at doing. And I'm pretty sure everybody goes through the same thing. Okay, so another issue is that these American beliefs that people should be involved with science, and a woman has to do science and math, but they don't encourage men to do whatever women do. They will do it in the future, but they're not doing it right now. They can see it coming. I can see it coming. It's not shared by the rest of the world. American men and women are very far apart, more further apart in terms of equality than any other country. I've lived overseas for more than 10 years. I've traveled all over the world. I see equality more between the genders in other countries than I do in the United States. I'm going to use the example, in many foreign countries, you'll see men working, cleaning hotel rooms, but you would never see that in the United States. And I see a lot of women that are security guards or police officers. You don't see that often in the United States. It's rare. So you will be the jack of all trades is good if you're going to start your own business or if you're a one-man band. But most of you are not going to do that. Most of you are going to get a job working for someone, and you don't want to. Jack of all trades can help for a small company, but in general, you want to really be good at something. And if you have an ability, whether it's your strength or your height, I met a guy who was tall. He was a lid operator. He was the guy who was tall enough to put the lids on the top of the machine for whatever the soda bottles were, whatever it was that the lid was for. So that was his job. So find something that you're going to excel at based on your physical and whatever abilities, and pursue that. And don't do something because the society tells you got to do it. That's the wrong way. Celebrate what is unique about you, because I got news for you. There's different genders and there's different races and there's different nationalities and people like different things. You're going to have any problem you think you have between men and women, you're going to have between women and other women, and men are going to have between men and other men. I mean, that the problems are going to be there. So make sure that you find what works for you, and don't let other people tell you what to do, and ignore the media. The media is filled with nonsense. The media does this because they're trying to raise money. Here's what happens. You hear, oh, well, there was a study. As soon as I see that, forget it. There's no such thing as an independent study. They're all biased. When you do a study, they do it for a profit. Those people are being employed. The person who owns it is trying to make a profit, and the people who are employed have to be paid. They need to bring in money, or either whether it's a grant or money from donations, they're trying to make money. There's no such thing as a non-profit or not-for-profit. A non-profit, the people that work there still get paid money. No, I work for a non-profit. You're getting paid. So what they do is they do a study with the intent of getting media attention, with the intent of receiving donations or grants. And the news media doesn't go say, hey, I'm going to go through all these studies and pick one that I like. That's not the way it works. They pay another company like the AP or the AP Associated Press or Knight Ridder. They pay these services. They're called wire services. They publish a study and they send out a press release that goes through the wire service. They have to pay for that. It costs over $1,000 or $2,000, depending on how much distribution you want. And then the journalists subscribe to feeds, and they receive this, and they put in the keywords that they want, and they're going to put in sexism or gender as a keyword, and they're receiving news items from all over the world that are related to gender, whether it could be a police report or from a news wire, etc. And that study is going to come into someone's desk, and he's going to read it, and he's going to say, oh, this is going to make me look like I'm cool because people are going to think this is interesting. But he's not going to say this is factually correct. He's not going to verify the factual correctness of the study. He's going to say it's interesting. It might not be true. It might be a complete lie. And then he's going to publish that story, and then you're going to believe it because you're not going to investigate it. I'm going to give you an example. There was the one about the differences between men and women. It says, for watching TV, men like violence, women like relationships. It says men like violence, sports, and might have said some other things. Women like relationships, soap operas. And I'm like, this is a biased study. Yes, men like sports and women like soap operas, but why didn't you say men like teamwork, which is sports? They said violence. They had a negative connotation. Why didn't you say cooperative teamwork, which has a positive connotation? And soap operas, when I think of soap opera, there's people lying and cheating and murder, out of wedlock babies and things like that. That's not relationships. That's a neutral connotation. This study was biased, and this was in national news. Everybody was reporting it. It said men like violence, women like relationships. No, it's a lie. They were misrepresenting the news. There is a gender bias in the media, and it affects individual people, and it hurts people in the end. So the point that I'm making is verify facts. Don't believe the media. Don't believe what you read on some website. Look for government sources. Look for facts that are reproduced, things that a study needs to be reproduced by other people. Look for standard ways of determining if a study is empirical. You can figure that out on your own. And be who you want to be and what your decisions are. Have your own self-destiny. Don't do something because the media says you have to do it or you can't do it. So I might have said at the beginning that I don't think women are a good choice for president, and I'm going to explain to you why. Most leaders at the top are men, and most leaders at the bottom are women. And both have power. Both have equal power. The guy at the top gets all the attention, but the one at the bottom has equal power, because if you have the guy at the top and nobody follows him, then he has no power. He's a figurehead. And if you have people at the bottom and nobody follows them, then they have no power. You know, the women control the PTAs and they run the families and the daycare, and they're the primary influence on the rearing of children, and what we basically believe that we might believe through most of our lives. And women have a lot of influence, but it's not at the top, it's at the bottom. And they have more influence than men do at the bottom than at the top. Men don't get jobs as kindergarten teachers or doing daycare. It would be prohibited. No one is going to hire a man to be a kindergarten teacher, etc. So there are jobs that are appropriate for the skills that a woman has. Secretary of State is a good example. Secretary of State's job is to manage relationships. That's something that women are good at. Negotiations sounds like something that would be good for women. It's managing relationships, negotiating treaties, problem solving, something that men are good at. Now, I've met a lot of women. I met a lot of American women. I used to live in the United States, but unfortunately I met a lot of women that were feminists, and I was not interested in feminism in any manner, so I left the country, and now I do not meet women like that. I'm happy with the people that I meet. But the other factors in common with women is they're always late. They don't like to take responsibility. They don't want to initiate anything. These are things that are not leadership qualities. Leadership means that you're on time. You take responsibility. If someone else doesn't do the job, you do it. You take responsibility for what you do and for other people's work. You initiate. If the president doesn't initiate, then he's not a president. That's not what leadership is. Leadership means that you're leading and people are following you. Women are not good at that. Women don't like to take on risk. They don't like to take on responsibility. They always say, let the man make the decision. They're not punctual in the I've never known a punctual woman. It's worse outside the United States. One thing about American women, they were only 15 minutes late. Outside the United States, they're worse. It's an hour late. 2 hours I've waited for women. And in my family, I'm always waiting. The women made me wait, my aunts and my mother. It doesn't matter where you're going. Always waiting, late for everything, all the time. Punctuality is important in being a leader. Initiating is a requirement of being a leader. If you don't initiate, then you're not the leader. You're the follower. There are cultures that are collective societies like China, Japan. They run things differently. Maybe over there, I've heard they work on consensus, for example. It's a different government It's a different government setup. It's different than our government. Maybe a woman might be good at leading a communist country or a socialist country that rules by consensus, where she has a team of people and the people make contributions and she makes a decision based on those contributions. Maybe that would be an appropriate place for a woman to be a leader. Now, there are societies where women have always been leaders. It does exist in the world. There will be people who tell you that it doesn't. Research on the internet. Look for cultures run by women, and you'll find that there are cultures where men take care of the kids and women take care of everything else. Women provide for the families. These things exist. Not that common, but they do exist. Exist in the animal kingdom, the insect kingdom, run by women. The women do everything. They do all the work, all the decisions. The men don't do anything. The males don't do anything in the insect world. The females are in control, complete control. You know, whether it's the ants or the bees, all controlled by females. And it's a collective species. So that's what women, you're probably going to find that women are going to go further in collective societies like China and Japan than they do in independent societies like the United States. And just because the United States is independent doesn't mean that we don't have collectivism. It exists here in various ways in different places. You know, private organizations, public organizations, it does exist in this country. Okay, so you can post your comments down below.